in-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Think about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's the big boy, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 207 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we're here to break down Ryan Blaney's run in the Bank of America ROVAL 400 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Charlotte Motor Speedway. Got it. Welcome back, Steve, to another episode of the podcast. Finishing off the last road course race of the season for the NASCAR Cup Series, and spoiler alert, for the fifth time out of 6 road course races this season, the same driver of the number 88 kind of waxed the field once again. And I thought it was odd. I mentioned this to somebody that I thought it was like, this is like the closest 15-second victory I feel like I've ever seen, because it felt like a lot closer than what it was, just because the way everything played out all day. And I'd like to kind of maybe discuss that off the top about how this race felt just different and reasons why.
There was actually coming and going because of this tire situation.
And that's what it was.
All these different strategies, and then truthfully, SVG had to battle it too. Usually his tire conservation is better than everybody else's. They talk about his way he brakes and everything, and how it doesn't heat the rotors as much, and because of that, he has less tire wear and can go deeper into the run with good speed. But he had a little bit of it, and he had some different guys actually messing with him and passing him, and he had to come back and pass them back, and kind of made for a good entertaining race, even though, like you said, 15 seconds or whatever. But truth is it was close most of the day, and he had to overcome a couple of things with strategy and come back.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just changed the way everybody approached this race, because I believe in years past, the tires were so hard that they would just run on the same set and for an entire stage. And in this case, you saw guys splitting stages up, pitting multiple times. Yeah. There were some people that did stretch it a full stage, but you were hearing, especially coming out of like 7 and coming out of the chicanes, like they couldn't put the power down to get going because their rear end got so loose just from not having any grip. So you even saw in the third and final stage, people pitting 2 or I think even like 3 times in some cases too. So to where they were trying to use that as a strategy move at the end. You saw that with the 5 and the 20, because they just saw that as the only thing they could possibly do to beat the 88. I would have liked to maybe see what could have happened if the 5 or somebody just stayed on the same strategy and tried to beat them. It would have been a 15-second win. Maybe it would have been a 5-second win or something. But the tires kind of threw everybody for a loop, I guess, and it was, I don't know, made for, like you said, an interesting and entertaining race. But I do want to say, though, and this is the probably only podcast you're going to hear this on this week, because I've already listened to a few. I've seen all the social media takes leading into this race and then after the race. I believe we are in agreement. And again, even our listeners, I think, are going to disagree. We both like this race.
We love it
in general, not just this past weekend's race, but I like the ROVAL. I'm sorry. I'm an unapologetic fan of the ROVAL. I've been to it 3 or 4 times now. You were at the first one, saw an amazing finish there, but we are in agreement on this. And again, I think this is the only place you're going to hear that, and I apologize.
The echo chamber of people who are against it must just be a loud echo chamber, or they have all the 1 or 2 social medias that it takes to be loud about it, because right as soon as it was over, there were nobody in the stands. Oh, the ratings are going to be horrible. Oh, the racing was this, the racing was that. And they're all wrong. They're all wrong because with this playoff format, the way it's set up, where they put the race and the fact that it's not really a road course. Everybody says that. Everybody calls it that because there are different turns going left and right. It's a hybrid. Somebody used that term years ago, and I've remained using it. It's a hybrid because you still have to come out of the track. You still have to drive the racetrack 1 and 2. There's a chicane on the backstretch, and still power down and drive 3 and 4, and then the chicane on the front stretch. So it's got all these elements that, both road course guys and regular drivers who aren't specialists, have to be able to do. And every year there's been something to watch. And that's the other thing. Like, people are like, oh, it was this or it was that. And it's like, what are you watching? I hate to call people like not affluent in the sport, but those of us who watch racing, there was tons of racing, tons of strategy. I mean, what happened with the 22 and the 1 and the third stage, and how they split the stage and the other one didn't split the stage, and how much, because of the tire wear, how much was, coming and going. One guy was losing ground because of his tire wear. The other guy was pitted an extra time and yet was gaining ground and gaining spots to the point where he actually did make the pass on the at the finish line, which he didn't even need that one. He just needed some positions. But all those things were happening the whole time. And then, like I said, the race for the lead itself, there was a change in the lead a bunch of different times in the third stage. The 20 got up there. The 5 got up there. The 5 muscled his way around once or twice. And then the 88 gave it back to him a little bit too, which was kind of cool to watch. He actually, got aggressive to the point where he, would, side door somebody a little bit, because he didn't always do that, the first couple of races he's done. So, yeah, all these things were all there. All these elements were there. So all these people that are just poo-poo, I don't know. Like I said, it's an echo chamber. Maybe NASCAR's listening to it. Maybe in a year, in 2027, they'll get rid of it or whatever. But to me, I don't want them to get rid of it. I think it's a great thing because of the way the playoffs are set up, where they put it in the playoffs. It's a wild card. It makes everybody think about strategies. This year was the first time that, since it's been around, that we didn't have to worry about Ryan.
Yeah.
There have been years where, we got to get the stage points in the first stage. We got to get the stage points in the second stage. Okay, we got the stage points. Where are we at now? Okay, we just have to finish 15 positions or stay where we're at, or be within 3 positions. All those things were always happening for Ryan in this race in the last 6 years. So it drives me crazy that who are these people?
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. People, they're totally entitled to their opinion. They're not wrong necessarily about attendance, but I don't think attendance has really changed over the years. Again, we've been to multiple of these, and no, it's not full for that race, especially compared to the sellout crowds they get for the 600. But I'm not convinced that they would get more.
Yesterday was going to be a really rare bird because they had a home football game in the city of Charlotte, an NFL football game in Charlotte against the Miami Dolphins, I think it was. If that sells out, how many of those people cross over sometimes,
Yeah.
That may give me another 10, 15,000 people that could have been at the race.
And the Dolphins are a team that transcend just, people in Florida being their fan. They're kind of like one of those Cowboys type franchises where people outside of the state like it. But yeah, I mean, would they get more with the oval race? I think they would, like first year of the oval being back in the fall or something, but I think it would level off again. Would I like if they race the oval? I think it'd be a great race if it was on the, honestly, but I'm the kind of guy that watches every single week, no matter what. And I've heard of that talked about a lot too. Like, you got to be a real diehard to, like, Jeff Gluck made that joke about, like, turn off football on this Sunday and go watch the ROVAL. It's like, well, that was me. Yeah, sure, the Browns played in the morning, but still, I would have put that as the main deal on my television.
Well, that's the funny thing he was talking about too, about people tuning out, because of the NFL, and this is something that's totally missed with a lot of people, and it happens. 3:00 on a Sunday during NFL season is when the games are starting to get to their third and fourth quarter. And, close games and people watching red zone and all those things. I think they really ought to move the start time in the fall of every race to noon Eastern. Noon Eastern, starting at noon Eastern, not at 12:38 or anything like that. Noon Eastern is when the green flag drops. And I tell you why. This is everybody who's in between or somebody who goes between football and NASCAR. All of a sudden, they all tune in at noon because the NASCAR race starts already. And then at 1 o'clock, if they want to fade off to whatever football game that they would fade off to, they do so. But the NFL, for the most part, is regional games at 1 o'clock. It's not the whole country. The game that the whole country gets is at 4:25. And then, your Sunday night game is a national game. So there's a lot of people who are just regional. And if you start at, like I said, the red zone thing happens about 3. It starts at 1 o'clock, but about 3:15, 3:30 is when it gets hot because all the games are coming to a close. Start the NASCAR race at 12. I know the West Coast, you're worried about the West Coast because of the start time, but start it at noon Eastern. You'll see the people on the West Coast who want to watch will tune in and watch. They get up and watch the NFL games. So you're telling them, okay, let's get up just a little earlier and start with the NASCAR race. And if we hang on to the NASCAR race and keep watching it, great. If not, we've got to figure out a way to keep you interested. But the truth is if they start at noon, a lot of people are going to keep watching until it's over because the NASCAR race will then end at about 3 o'clock or 3:30, as long as there wasn't some sort of major red flag. And then they can go ahead and watch the end of the games.
Yeah.
I think it's a ratings thing that they really should look at.
I think the other issue with people's thoughts on this race too are just the fact that when it was just Watkins Glen, Sonoma, and then the ROVAL popped up, I think people were okay. And then they added like Road America, and it's like, okay. And then they added COTA, and then it kept going and going and going. So I think if we were back to just, 3 or 4, people would be fine with it. But I don't want to say, you and I aren't wearing rose-colored glasses on this. It is obvious that TV ratings since the summer have been down, undeniably. Attendance at tracks. Some tracks, it goes back and forth. But at least this last stretch here, attendance has been kind of down. It is what it is. I don't think the ROVAL's the reason for that, but that's just where it was. But I just thought it was funny because I was like, we're going to agree on this, and all the other media I'm seeing is people that are not.
Yeah,
but I did want to say, I know we both also like Jeff and Jordan from the Teardown, but I would like to know what race Jordan was watching, because his thought was this race was a dud. It was totally boring. I'm like, what? I'm like, people in our Discord who have like big opinions sometimes. I even saw somebody post like partway through like stage 2, like best road course race of the year, like already, just because of the coming and going from the tires and everything. So I was like, what was he must have been writing his story and not actually watching the TV.
He's got short-term memory loss too, I think, or something. Because the thing is you won't watch. He's going in with the expectation that SVG is going to win the race, right? A lot of people were. Oh, SVG. Remember I pointed out last week, where did SVG finish last year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what happened to him? You know why he finished there? Because he finished there because he got turned coming out of 7 up onto the track. Right? He was in a little bit of a gaggle of cars, and somebody hit him from behind and turned him, and he never recovered from it. He still got his way back up a little further, but he never recovered from it. Well, guess what? That can happen all race long to those guys. So that's why you watch the whole race, obviously, right? We watched the whole race, and we saw somebody yesterday spinning somebody out at the start-finish line to get a position to try to keep in the playoffs. And 7 years ago, we saw somebody trying to win the race, spin somebody else out, and the guy who finished third won, right? So you watch the whole race, and you anticipate that something could happen and could go wrong. He's Mr. Team Chaos anyways. So I don't understand where his well, it was not boring. There were, like I said, there were times where we're yelling at the screen for Larson to door the 88 and see if he can knock him out of the way. And he did it a couple times because he was faster and he moved him out of the way, and he maintained that lead for 5, 6, 7 laps or whatever, So, yeah, I don't know what Jordan was watching either. Sometimes I love those guys, and I really do appreciate what they try to do. But sometimes I think I don't want to use the word shill, but they are definitely like a mouthpiece for NASCAR to try to leak things out there, to float an idea, to see what kind of traction it gets, to see how it'll go in the echo chamber. And yeah, sometimes he's a little way off just because I think he's trying to do those kind of things.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Like I said, I think the 15-second win by SVG this time could have been different if both the guys that were in contention behind him, the 20 and the 5, didn't pull the tire strategy at the end. I think he still wins without any cautions or something by 5 seconds or so, but I don't think it was like as uncompetitive as maybe it would have seen, or if you just look at the box score. But speaking of the box score, Ryan Blaney will show up on that, and it's probably time for us to talk about Ryan Blaney and his race, because it was interesting, it was exciting at points, and it was after just talking about how amazing of a race this was. I thought it was, and great and everything. There were points in this race for Ryan that I'm sure were rather frustrating, but he was playing the role he needed to play this week, and we're gonna go through a lot of that. And but there's still some success from this week that's going to help him going forward into this round of 8.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because there is a point in the third stage where we're definitely looking at doing things a certain way for a certain reason. And when we get to the playoff points later on, we can talk about him and how he's not all there right now. But so we get to practice, and I tried not to take a lot of notes here because practices are really kind of weird, because you're not going to run a 10 or 15 lap run. Sometimes you do 4, 5, or 6, and then you get off the track. And so Group 1, the 16 AJ, which was the fast lap there, 54.99, 8:38 were pretty fast, and they were all within 0.3 of a second. Those top 5 guys, which is an amazing thing to think about over that kind of distance with all those turns. So that tells you how good everybody is too, and it really does come down to having your car in good condition. The top 12 were all within 1 second. The 99 actually runs up running 14 laps, and there's a huge tire fall off. It was like 4 to 5 seconds in 12 laps. So that first practice definitely showed that we're going to have some different strategy for Sunday. Group 2 here, Ryan going out here, the first lap was 19th overall between the two groups, and it was like 1.421 seconds back at the 16. But it was P5 in Group 2. So within the cars he was running with, and that's all the playoff guys, he was doing pretty well. And he closes it up a little bit, but 5 laps in, the fast 5 were the 5, the 20, the 1, the 88, the 17. Ryan's lap ended up being P18 overall with all that. And Tim and Jonathan are actually talking about where they can be quicker. Like, they're looking at the data, they're looking at different guys running different lines. And 9 laps in, Ryan brings it back in. He says it's way too loose at that point. He ends up running 13 total laps. So we get to qualifying with 2 groups in qualifying. Group 1, the 54 goes out really late, and he waits to the backstretch before he actually starts his run. And the qualifying, they had a alternate start-finish line that was basically in the middle of turns 3 and 4, and so that way they could bring it in right into the pits afterward. But he goes to P1 at 86.160. The 77 does the Dukes of Hazzard jump on the front stretch chicane. Later on, we're going to have to talk about him.
That sets the tone for the weekend for him, I think.
Top 5, though, in that first group were the 54, 16, the 10, the 44, and the 99. Group 2, only 5 minutes in, only 2 or 3 cars that went out. The 1, the 34. 10 minutes in, the 17 is the best overall of Group 2, and he's P2. So the 54 put up a pretty good lap there, and guys aren't getting close to it. But then 5 minutes to go, everybody seems to come out. The 88 goes to P1 with an 85.971. Ryan's lap, it puts him at 10th at that point. And by the time it finishes, the 45 actually gets the pole with an 85.939, and that lap backs Ryan up to P11, about 0.8 of a second back. So qualifying really not bad. I mean, the last road course we were at, he had the pole,
Sure.
But not bad at the ROVAL. Hopefully they have found some stuff during practice that they could use on Sunday. Definitely the tire wear was going to be the issue. And
I was happy with it. And we're in this situation, and we talked about this last week in the preview. We weren't really even sure what kind of strategy these guys were going to go for. It was going to be really easy to say that they were just going to flip everything, or and or not flip everything, actually stay out to try to get playoff points by winning the stages. But we said, well, I don't know. He has two teammates that are trying to, one of them trying to win the race and one of them trying to point his way in possibly.
So,
and we, would they want to take up one of those spots and have the 22 lose points along the way? So, and we'll talk about what they do as they go. And I think the tire wear and just the way the race played out, and based on the communication we heard at times, I think their strategy kind of just changed on the fly as it went.
Yeah, it kind of did. But what they ended up doing at the end of stage 2, I think, changed everything. So we got stages of 25, 50, and 109, 8 sets of tires here. Pit stall number 7, they were behind the 34 and had an opening behind them. And I think there are certain points in times, actually during green flag pit stops, where the 34 comes right in, right near them or behind them, and they do a good job getting out around them and actually have some pretty good pit stops. Timmy, and then we had Mule. And this was interesting because I think a lot of teams use 2 spotters, but they didn't use 2 spotters in the way you'd use 2 spotters like this guy's got this area of the track and that guy's got that area of the track. No, what they did was Tim was spotting Ryan, Mule was spotting the track. In other words, if anything happened and somebody was going to cause a caution, he could hurry up and let them know that, we might have a caution coming. This guy's stuck over here. He's doing this. And that way they might actually be able to jump to pit road if they're in the right position, pit the car before the caution, and then jump the field as everybody else comes through. So it was really helpful. And then later on, it actually kind of was helpful because Ryan was fixing, Tim had to fix his equipment actually. So for the start of the race, the 45, it's taking the outside, and the 8 gets spun at the beginning here. And it looked like the 60 and the 77 were involved. The 60 may have hit the 77, I think, into the 8. I don't know. It was a mess. And the 8 got
77 claimed that like the 60 put him in a spot where he didn't have a choice and he had to put his nose where he put his nose. But man, this week Kyle Busch learned that his crew chief was leaving to go to Trackhouse and Connor Zilich next year. They announced that they were going to pull Randall Burnett out of the crew chiefing role, and they'll give him Andy Street, who was Austin Hill's crew chief for a long time in the Xfinity Series. They won a lot of races together, but he's been running that part-time cup program for RCR. They didn't even get to make a lap. And the same thing that Kyle Busch has been dealing with all year long is immediately into the wall early in the race, immediately a spin out, immediately something. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he just pulled it into the garage and got out.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did pull it in the garage, but they went to DVP and got it fixed. But still, rough. Ryan sorts to P12 by turn 7. And turn 7, of course, is the hairpin that goes, right back up onto the track into what would be NASCAR turn 1. By lap 3 here, 45 still leading. Ryan is behind the 23 car, chasing him in 12th. At lap 4, SVG took the lead. At lap 5, we passed the 23 in turn 7, get to 11th. And at lap 7, faster than the next 4 guys in front of him. So you're watching on the in-car, and he's just gaining on those guys. So he's probably going to get to him at some point. And then at lap 10, some cars start to pit. And like I said, like you said before, this tire wear definitely changed the strategy. Everybody kind of had to split the stage up. And they started to do that. And the 99 was the first guy. Lap 11 here, we're pitting. We passed the 19 to get to 10th here, but we go ahead and pit. It's a 10.30 stop. Now blends back in at 27th. And now we're going to see how they'll race to the end of the stage. At lap 12 here, the pit cycle's continuing, passing the 3 and the 4 car to get to 17th. At lap 13, up to P14, the 17 is leading. At lap 14, we're passing the 99 to get to 12th. At lap 16, we passed the 6 and the 38. We're up to 10th. And at lap 17, we passed the 23 to get to 9th. And then the 17 and the 45 are yet to pit, but they are 4 seconds slower a lap. So, it might be gaining on them as we go here. At lap 19 here, the 88 took the lead. The 16 passed us, so now we're in 10th. At lap 20, we passed the 45. We're back to 9th. At lap 21, we're pitting. So at this point, it looks like we are going to try to compete for the win.
We're pitting before the end of the stage. We're going to flip the stage. We're going to get the track position back for the next stage. So we're pitting from P9 here. And Jonathan, when he comes back on the track, tells him to kind of maintain the lead he has. This one's a 12.020, but they're waiting for the 45 to come around them. So it's one of those traffic things on pit road where he's coming and you're going, and you just kind of had to wait a second for him to get there, and then we pull out. P19 at that point here, lap 25 here. The 88 wins stage 1, and Ryan's 19th. And they try not to run like hard on the tires, basically, to the end of the stage here. So Ryan says it feels a little better than in practice. He also describes every turn. Literally, couldn't take notes on this because he was like, in 1 or 2, it's doing this, and 3 or 4, it's doing this, and in 7, we're doing this. So he's literally giving them like a breakdown of every turn, what type of things they could try to help to adjust for handling. So we're lap 27, lap 27 here. Everyone else who didn't pit now pits. Ryan moves all the way up to P3. So flipping the stage, now we get the track position back. The 16 is P1. The 88 ends up being back in 12th. So for the choose here, 16 on the outside. Ryan is also on the outside, row 2. 99 is the car to our inside here. Restart lap 29 here. Clears the 17 by turn 1 all the way up to P2 here. SVG gets himself all the way to 6th by the time they get to the hairpin turn at 7 there.
Yeah, 1 lap. He made up 6
Yeah. So lap 31 here, 0.7 back of the 16. And then this 17 causes this melee, which kills the 2 car. And this is one of those things that, what they call that? A dart without no flights. That's what he looked like. Yeah. It was just up the track, and he just jammed himself right into the 2 car. He used the 2 car to stop himself. And the 2 car ends up going down pit road right off the bat here. And it looked like a toe link, but it wasn't a toe link. I found out it was the lower control arms were bent, so they took it to the garage, and he ends up coming back out. I hate to say it, but I wish that the car was done. And then Austin Cindric was standing there waiting for him to come off the track, because this is one of those incidents that the kid needs punched in the nose. What he did going into that chicane was just stupid. I don't know how else to describe it. It was dumb. There was no reason.
77. I think you might have said 17, but 77.
77, yeah. The 77. No, he's just, the kid's not all there. That was not on the last lap of the race, like we've said this before about a lot of situations. Last lap of the race, you're trying to do something. I understand that. You're trying to get a couple positions. It's go time. This was, early in stage 2. What were you hoping to accomplish by doing that?
Yeah, and that's what I've said before about him. He's clearly fast. He clearly has some God-given talent, but he likes to gloat about the fact that he doesn't like to study. He runs his own sim stuff, like iRacing stuff that he loves to do in stream, but doesn't really like that. He's not really into data and analyzing things. He just wants to get in the race car and go. And that's why I kind of point to this, where I think sometimes I'm fast, and he just points his car wherever he wants, and however it lands, it lands. And if there's anybody in the way, they're in the way. I'm going to say I don't care publicly and everything, even though later on I will wave guys back and everything. But publicly, I want to be this rebel. And what I don't get about it is, and this is part of the problem too, is being the aggressor, he does not collect a lot of damage. So being the aggressor in these situations, he gets away with it. If his car were to be as wrecked as the 2 car was every time something like that happened, you wouldn't see him very long in the sport, because they go, well, the guy wrecks himself all the time and he wrecks the car. But he gets away with it because his car keeps running, and he keeps doing this stuff and getting away with it because the other guy gets the damage. So I'm just, like you said, I'm the rebel. I'm the guy, You know what it is he actually, it just dawns on me when you're talking about him not getting damage or spinning out. When he's doing this, a lot of times he is just hitting people square with his nose. And if you're going to hit somebody with the next gen car and not get damage, that's kind of the way to do it, because that doesn't really mess you up, but it can send people if you hit them in the right spot. So that's a good That's a good point. But yeah, like I said, sometimes he's just not like people want to compare him to Earnhardt or something. And I was like, Earnhardt was calculated about every move he made.
Yeah.
If he resembles anything to Earnhardt, it's by accident because he's not being calculated about anything.
Because he bought a truck.
Yeah, and I get it. Honestly, like coming up through the ranks, and I thought he was fun. I thought he was funny. I think you and I even early on in this season were talking about how we like this guy. We like what he's doing, but then it got old, I feel like, right?
He's entertaining as far as like, you know, he'll be a goofy kid and he'll have fun with certain things. And, you know, he's playing video games on the Jumbotron.
He was almost winning too. I think that was it. Like,
yeah.
Being aggressive was actually putting him in position to win, but that ended over the summer.
It doesn't work at the cup level. At the truck level, it works. It doesn't work at the cup level. You got to be better than that. Lap 35 here. Ryan is 0.45 back of the 16. SVG's up to 5th. At lap 36 here, the 16, the 12, the 17 are all within a half second. So the 17 is closing the gap too. At lap 37, we're pitting. And we start the cycle. And I like this because if you get out there on the track, you know, a lap or two before anybody else, you gain 2 seconds on them. Hopefully you'll cycle out to the lead, maybe, you know, if other guys do come in. So it sorts out to 16th here with the 16 still leading. And he's only, you know, a little bit ways back of him. And lap 38 here, we passed the 11, the 19 to get to 13th. 2.5 seconds faster than the cars who stayed out. So like I said, there's cars still out there, and now we're starting to track them down. Lap 41, passing the 47, the 1 to get to 10th. The 88 now leads. The 16 pitted, and the 16 ends up 5 seconds behind Ryan. So there we go. That kind of thing worked out real good coming a little bit earlier, and you know, he gapped him. Lap 42 here, we passed the 24 to get to 9th. The lap 43, passing 7 to get to 8th. And lap 45, Jonathan tells Tim that we're trying to get to the 5, and I think the 5 was running second at that point. So they were just looking at that point. If they can get to the 5, they might do something, or they might pit, depending on where they're at, because then they'll be within a certain distance of the leader. And they were paced to get him by the end of the stage. And then
I think they were thinking too, the 5 potentially could stay out to try to win the stage to get the stage point too. So
right. But if they get to if they would have got to a certain distance within that, time-wise, they could have got to pit road, you know, and then once again jumped him in the next stage. But we passed the 60 and the 71 to get to 6th. And then this is where Tim is having radio issues. He switches radios. Mule kind of took over for a lap or two. Lap 46, some other cars pit. We're up to 3rd. At lap 47, the 5 pits. Ryan's in 2nd. Then the 88 pits. And Ryan at lap 48 is the leader. And at that point, I'm like, well, I think this changes everything. And it's exactly what it is. Other guys, by them pitting, has kind of changed our strategy now because we took over. And now they got to maintain the lead for a lap or two. And sure enough, Ryan wins stage 2. And SVG's P5. So this worked out great now because we have another stage point. And you know, hopefully it's not necessary this next round, but it's nice to have, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is what a lot of fans wanted when we were looking at this race, because we were being realistic in that, you know, the 88 is most likely going to win, but it's not guaranteed. But then you have the last 2 guys that have won there in the 5 and the 20. So, and the 16 was running well at different points. So if you're pointing to different people that could win this race, Ryan had speed. I think he potentially, if what doesn't necessarily have to happen the rest of the way happens, or if he doesn't flip, or if he doesn't stay out to win this stage, I think they had a top 5 car. They could have finished top 5. They've had that speed all year long. This is another one of those races, like Mexico, I think, where I think you won a stage there as well, where they kind of sacrificed the finish to get that stage point. And in this round and where they're at, and if you're not going to win the race, nothing mattered actually.
Yeah,
the points he got for the finish didn't matter. The stage point does. Yeah, or the playoff point does.
There's something that happens in this stage here that keeps him from being top 5. And I think that's something that hopefully I have it in the notes here.
Yeah, and we'll go through that. But yeah, he definitely actually do think you're right. Like he could have potentially raced his way up there just because he was fast, at least to the top 10. But things happen, and we'll go through that.
We'll go through. It's a mindset, basically. John says we're gonna, use the scuffs on this next pit stop here. And they all thank Mule for filling in there. Jonathan tells them to stop short here, and then they end up losing a couple spots on pit road. I think it was the right rear. It looked like they got hung up on the right rear. But
they jacked the car back up. Can I interject real since this will be a little bit of a talking point?
Mm-hmm.
Pit stop stuff. This round.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, New Hampshire, they won the race, so it doesn't really matter what happened. But New Hampshire, Kansas, and then this kind of hiccup here. I will say New Hampshire and Kansas, the crew, they didn't do anything to, like, take him out of the race. Clearly, he won New Hampshire. Kansas, it was just average. They didn't do anything to, like, put him in position to win or something. And then they have this hiccup here where they had to rejack the car up and retighten the right rear. I know your answer is going to be no, but, like, does the execute, like, this has been since Talladega, since Keaston's come on, like, the crew has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're getting down to the last 8 cars trying to win a championship, like, every little tiny thing matters. Does it concern you at all that there's been a little bit of unease or hiccups the last couple of weeks, or do you think I know as a team they're going to aim for it to reset going into this next round?
Nah, this was fine. This was situational too. Like, they knew that they had a little bit of time, and they weren't worried necessarily about position at that point, and they knew they were going to actually be trying to protect one of their teammates the rest of the way. So
this didn't matter to them at all for this, but it's still, like, as far as going through the motions, I think part of me is, like, worried, like, you don't even want to get that to get in their heads either.
No, I think it's just, like I said, it's a situational thing. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. This is a race where there's no real good rhythm for a pit crew either. The next couple of weeks, there'll be like pit stop. There'll be a rhythm to it. There'll be, okay, they know if they're coming. They know they're going to be doing this. It's a lot different at the ovals. And I think they'll be fine, especially the pit selection will, now there's only going to be 8 of them picking the first spots. So they should have pretty good pit stalls no matter what the next 3 weeks too. So, okay.
I just wanted to be fair. I didn't want to ignore it because it's like, there's just, like I said, just been little tiny hiccups here. This round, again, they totally overcame and I don't think they did anything terrible at New Hampshire. But it was just one of those, like, I don't want these little gremlins, because this is that time of year, because you got to be perfect, right? Like, you can't. You saw what with Chastain make just mental mistakes to come out of the playoffs. So it's just, you got to be perfect now.
So they're P25 for this restart here, and the restart lap 55 here, and they're behind the 22 car for the restart. And that is the first note, because from this point forward, and we, my wife and I turn to each other and we go, yeah, okay, protect the 22, right? Let's try to make sure, because if we pass him, that's a point. And we're running with him now. So now everything statistically you look at from this point of the race forward, you have to think that's a point. You can't pass him because you don't want him to lose 1 point.
And I do want to point something out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, again, watching this along with our Discord and stuff, and people were frustrated this whole run. Ryan, this entire race, 2 or 3 times on his own, came over the radio and asked what the situation was. Specifically, early on, it was 2 and 22, but then the 2 was gone. So he wanted to know. He came on under his own volition asking, what's Joey's situation? So, and people do like to say, Ryan is the best teammate in NASCAR, and he has been, and there's the whole wingman thing from a couple years ago, and yada yada yada. But there's a reason why Team Penske's won 3 straight championships, and it's because they do think in this mindset. But it is what it is. I was not surprised by the way this goes, but I just don't want people to think like, he's being forced. Like, this is a guy actively trying to be a team player in as part of this. So they sort out the P24 here. The 88 and the 20 are battling pretty good for the lead. At lap 58, the 38 punts the 3 in the wall there, or in the tire barrier, and causing a caution. So Jonathan says there are some takers here, but for us it's going to be a number 4. So they stay out here at lap 60. They're up to P20. So a couple cars in front of them come in, but they're up to P20 here. what do you think about Zane? Just to again interject one, like he's becoming one of these guys that it's very clear he's not going to take anything, because this is not the first time he has retaliated for somebody racing him hard and roughing him up. So
he started to run better, and that's the thing.
yeah,
When you know you have a noticeable set of speed that you're able to use, and other people are impeding you from using it, I think I like the fact that he's sure being aggressive with it too, because other guys have done give and take and have respect, but they've been around a while to do it. Zane has only been at the cup level a couple years now, and maybe some of these guys just don't respect him enough right now, and he's got more speed than they do. So yeah, I was very encouraged by because I watched the whole thing go down, and yeah, because it happened right around Ryan. So yeah, the next restart here, Ryan is actually on the inside, but by the backstretch all the way to 19th, behind the 22. The 5 is now chasing the 88, and then at lap 62, the 5 and the 20 get by the 88. They roughed them up, they got him a little squirrely, and they both got by him. At lap 63, we passed the 40 at the 18th. And we're doing these passes, but we're trying to make sure the 22 is past the guy first before we pass somebody. And at lap 66 here, passing the 17 who pits. And they asked Joey about where Joey is on points. And the 5 is the leader at this point. Lap 68 here, more cars are pitting. We're up to 15th. At lap 71, P13, SVG takes the lead back. As the pit cycle is continuing, Ryan then pits also. It's a 9.640. Really good stop front of green. At lap 73 here, we blend in P31. Now, it was kind of interesting because I think the 22 pitted like a lap or two later, so I was kind of hoping we would have got in front of him and not thought about him, for a little while. Lap 74 here, P27, and the 5 is leading. Lap 75, passing the 66 of all cars to get to 25th. Lap 76, P21. But we're following the 22 again. So we ended up right behind him again. Lap 80, passing the 38 and the 47 to get to 19th. At lap 81, green flag stops are beginning. We're up to 17th. At lap 82, 15th. At lap 83, the 88 is closing in on the 5 at this point. And that's getting kind of interesting up front. Lap 84 here, the P13, and their car's still pitting. The 16 is on tires. Who gets by us, actually. So we're 14th. Lap 85, the 22 causes us to get past in 7. So here we are behind him. We're trying to protect him. We're trying to help him, but there are faster guys coming on tires. And we kind of get, I don't want to say punted, but we kind of get used up by guys behind us. The 45, the 11, and the 24 all get by. And we're back to 16th. And this is what I'm saying. Like, if we didn't have to run behind him and try to protect him, we would have been in front of him and checked out on him. And like we said, we probably could have got a top 10 at least.
Yeah,
easily.
On the first run of this stage, because he rode behind him clearly faster for a while there. So
for a while. So lap 87 here, P15 with the 88 leading. At lap 89, P13. The one car gets a speeding penalty at that point.
Do you want to hear something interesting I heard about that? Because people were confused as to why, the one serves the speeding penalty and comes out on track and is not that far behind the 22. It was pointed out that at this track, a speeding penalty is not that detrimental because you come down pit road at that same speed, just going straight, instead of coming through the chicane and going around and making the turn into one. Like they said, actually, you don't lose that much time, so it didn't really hurt him.
I want to say pit stops were 25 second, I think, from one end to the other pit road with your stop. So you're right. Yeah. Without the stop itself, it's 20 some seconds, a little less than that. So yeah, you're not losing much time. At lap 90, the 19, the 21, with faster tires get by. So we're P15 and we're pitting now, 9.540. The 88 also pits from the lead at this point. By lap 92, we're 22nd. Joey, at this point, is in by 5 points. Lap 92, with 17 laps to go. And the 5 is leading. The plan now for Ryan is to stay out and see how far they can get. Lap 94, P18. Lap 95, we passed the 48 to get a 17. And this is the 5 and the 88 battling for the lead out front. Lap 97, P16 and the 88 took the lead. Lap 98, P13. Lap 99, passing the 1 to get to 12th. And this helps Joey because now we're putting him back a position. Lap 101, P11. Lap 102, passing the 23 to get to 10th. Lap 105, still 10th. The 22 and the 1 for the cutoff are kind of heating up here. The 1 is on old tires, and he's kind of backing up. And the 22 is passing guys, and he's only 3 points back at this point. Lap 107, the 24 passes us. We get to 11th here, and this is where we kind of miss the backstretch chicane and actually do a stop and go there. And lap 108, the 45 passes we get 12th, the 54 passes. So we're back to 13th here for the end. The 88 ends up winning, and then we get this thing right in the final chicane with the 11 and the 1 wrecking, and they go backwards. And it was funny is we're seeing that, and you missed what happened with the 16 getting wrecked and having to drive backward. He finished 9th actually doing that. And Logano makes the next round on the last lap with the spots he gained. He was probably okay going into the last turn there, but what Chastain ended up doing made it even easier for him to make it. Pretty wild finish. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I don't understand what people were watching. I don't know why it was boring to Jordan Bianchi, but this was really a lot of fun and a lot of things going on. And then we had some post-race, like, who's going to do what, who's going to talk to who. And
I mean, how much in that third stage recap did you say battle for the lead?
Yeah.
And some of it was guys being there on different pit strategies. But like I said, somebody would have had the guts to try to stay on the same strategy as the 88. It could have been a lot closer than it was, but the 20 and the 5 both battled him multiple times. 2 different times, the 5 and the 88 made contact battling for the lead. And I think Denny on his show played it off to like, oh, well, like specifically when the 20 and 88 got by, he's like, oh, well, 88 just wanted to save his tires. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm watching it. They're making contact and hitting each other and sliding. I mean, that's not trying to save tires. So I think it just showed that, there's instances where, he's human and not necessarily beatable, but like you have a chance. There's a shot there. And like you said, you never know what could happen. Somebody can spin him out of 7. A lap car gets involved. I mean, you got to watch this whole race, but the amount of times that you said battle for the lead in that third stage. And again, that's why top of the show, I said, I just feel like this was like the closest 15-second victory that I've ever seen. Yeah. And it didn't become a 15-second victory until the pit strategy swapped in the last basically like 10 laps. The 5 waited forever to pit. And then finally did to come get tires. And basically at that point, his play was hoping a caution comes out late. And then he would have the freshest tires of the people that would stay out and have that track position to try to win the race from there. He knew he probably wasn't going to come through the field with the fresh tires and beat SVG heads up. So it is what it is. Again, everyone's opinion's valid. I can't tell you that you're wrong if you don't like it or if you want the oval or whatever. It's just one of those, I don't know what it is about it. I like the fact that you can go to that race, and if you're not necessarily a road course fan because you don't want to go to somewhere where you sit in one turn and that's all you can see, you go to the ROVAL, you get a good enough seat, you can see everything or close to everything. I think that's a great experience. And as a person that goes to the Rolex 24 every year and watches a little bit in the infield, but then also goes up in the stands where you can see pretty much everything as well if you sit up high enough. I like it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I like the race. I like the drama. Maybe it's manufactured. Maybe the drama is for 20th place. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
I'm glad you said that point there too. That's something I didn't say earlier. That is really a big thing. Like, because my wife will tell you, we've been to Road America, and you're watching like one area of the track, and that's it. You don't see anything else that's going on. You hear about it. You might, if you're lucky and you've got a good phone and you're able to watch things, that's great, but it doesn't always work out that way. At the ROVAL, and like you said, at Daytona, the 24 Hours of Daytona, if you're in the stands and you're up pretty decent, you see everything. And they've got a Jumbotron at Charlotte, where even if you're in a bad angle in the stands, you still get a chance to see a replay of something. And a lot of these road courses aren't set up like that. Sonoma and Watkins Glen. We were at Watkins Glen too. We just saw them on the front stretch. That's all we saw. There was a video board that was off in the distance, and every once in a while the replay, we'd kind of see if something happened somewhere else. So that was a good point to bring up too. Of all the road courses and all the ideas, like I said, the hybrid that it is, the ROVAL is a great place to actually watch all the action.
Yeah, and it won't be up to us. I don't even think it'll be up to the fans. It'll be up to the ratings. It'll be up to the attendance at the track because, Marcus Smith isn't a guy that's going to want to keep losing money over and over again. So I'll be here for it. I hope if they have it next year, it didn't work out for us this year to get there, but next year I'd like to go again because, again, I enjoy the race. I'm sorry if you don't agree with that. That's totally okay. So P13 finish for Ryan Blaney to end the round of 12. He picked up that victory at New Hampshire that locked him in. So the races at Kansas and this race here at the ROVAL didn't matter too much, except for he was able to pick up a couple of playoff points along the way in this round to go with the 5 playoff points that he got at New Hampshire. So let's take a look at the NASCAR Cup Series playoff standings now that we have dropped down to 8 cars. Denny Hamlin leads the way now at the reset at plus 8 points. And again, it shocked me when they get to this reset. You forget how close it is now at this point in the season because I'm thinking, Ryan came in with, 27 points or whatever, and he just added another 7. It's going to be fantastic. And then they do this reset. Hamlin is in first, plus 8. Blaney is in second, plus 6, though. Kyle Larson and William Byron are in third and fourth at plus 4. And then below the cut line now, Christopher Bell, minus 4. That's a guy with 4 wins on the season, minus 4. Chase Elliott in 6th, minus 14. Chase Briscoe in 7th, minus 14. Teammate Joey Logano, who came into the playoffs with just 7 playoff points, no bonus points because he finished 12th overall in the standings, minus 24. And you'll see that on the big board if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook Live. So, that's the position that they're in. I believe this is the highest Ryan's been ranked at one of these resets for the round of 8 along his playoff career. But it's not a big cushion. But nobody has a big cushion in this situation.
No, but what's interesting is the back end. The guys at the bottom, Chase Elliott, Briscoe, Logano, 14 under the cut line, 14, and then 24. This first race of the next round could set them in a deficit right away where they're, if any one of them has a bad race, they'll all be in must-win situations. And that kind of helps the guys at the top end if they point pretty well and have a pretty good race and maybe get a top 5. If you start to separate some things right off the bat, you get yourself in a place where by the end of the Talladega, you might have pointed your way in, depending on who wins the next 2 weeks. So, and the Logano thing is interesting because he has not really shown a lot of speed these last bunch of weeks. They really have not been there. Ryan's been behind him.
The ROVAL, they're battling for 20-something.
Ryan was behind him a bunch of different times in the last 2 weeks and just beating on him, trying to get around him because he's not there. It's not there. Now, don't get me wrong. His crew chief obviously has figured out some things at different points in times and put him in good situations, and he's executed. But this next week, last year he won it, right? If this year he comes out of the gate and it's not all there, I don't want to say put a fork in him, but the 2 weeks after that are not necessarily really good races for him.
No, yeah, and he wasn't super strong at Vegas this race last year. It was the pit strategy, which again I will say, I will not look down on anybody that wins a race on that because this is a team sport, and I think the engineers and the crew chiefs, if they win one for you, then kudos to them. The whole team wins, but that's how they won that race last year. Daniel Suarez actually almost won it as well. He got passed by Logano late, and Logano was the one that was able to hold off the 20 and get the win. So. I think at least twice out of Logano's 3 championships, he's won this race and immediately locked himself into the championship 4. and we know of places where they have speed. It's Phoenix,
Mhm.
undoubtedly. So it's a very important race. But then they go to Talladega, where Ryan, Austin, Joey, Cindric, or even Barry, could win at Talladega, just coming from the Penske camp.
Mhm.
But Joey's dangerous at Talladega as well. So it's at 22. If you keep letting them in, it's dangerous, and it's funny. I bring up our Discord again. Like, people were split on who would you rather see advance. Would you rather see the teammate Joey advance? And there's some people in there that are loyal to Penske, and yeah, why would you not want Penske? More Penske, the better.
Mhm.
Others were like, no, I'd rather have Ross. Why wouldn't you? Ross hasn't, necessarily had the speed either this year. And if they get to Phoenix, yada, yada, yada. Well, Ross has won at Phoenix in the past in this car. So it's like, I said, neither of them are good for us. Joey's not good because if he gets to the championship 4, he's beat Ryan a couple of times there. Ryan wasn't in the championship 4 one of those times, but he has the speed. He has the crew chief that can execute, and they can clearly win. Ross, on the other hand, is bad for another reason. He's aggressive. He's volatile. Racing around him. Ryan, wanted to go and win that race in 2023 and win the championship and win the race at the same time, but he would get to the one, and the one would basically say, do you want to win the race or do you want to win the championship? Because if you want to try to win this race, you're going to get put in the wall. So I did lean toward more wanting the one in. Sorry, Joey. But that's not where we're at. Again, we're down to the 8 best teams. And I think arguably you have teams represented from JGR, Hendrick Motorsports, and Team Penske that have made it. 3 best teams in the series. So it's not shocking there. I said it already when we were talking about any little miscues and stuff with pit stops, but it's not just pit stops. You mentioned the one. The one had 2 different incidents on pit road that took him out of this race in the ROVAL. He drove off a pit road like he was running the 600 once and had to stop and lost all of his positions. And then the other time he did what Ryan did actually a week before. He jumped into the wrong gear and immediately was speeding. So mental mistakes. The driver has to be perfect. The team has to be perfect. You have to be good in practice. You can't be playing catch up. Because we're back into a position here. For the last couple of weeks, we were saying stage points don't matter. Stage points matter more than anything now. Of course, if you don't get any stage points when you win, that's great. Lock into the championship 4. But all of these drivers, all 8 of these guys are going to be trying to go for stage points. So it's even harder to get them and get ahead. So having just a 6-point head start is helpful. I'm going to hold off and wait until we actually get into the Vegas preview to talk about any uneasiness we have there. So we'll hold off on that and do one more last thing that we have to do when it comes to this race this past weekend at the ROVAL, and that's to recap the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League results. And we'll go through our lineups and our featured matchups and those results, and then we'll go through the standings. So my team, I started Tyler Reddick, who was on pole, got me 37 points. Shane Van Gisbergen got me 56 points. Christopher Bell got me 45 points. AJ Allmendinger got me 28 points. Ty Gibbs got me 33 points. And I was waffling a little bit between Gibbs and McDowell during this race. I had McDowell in the garage, and I ended up just leaving him in there. He did get a little bit more points than Gibbs at 37, but it wasn't going to change my day. Featured matchups, I picked SVG over Allmendinger. That was correct. I picked Hamlin over Wallace. That was wrong, and it was going to be wrong no matter what, because I think Hamlin was going to finish like 18th or something like that before he got punted.
Yeah.
Chastain, I picked Chastain over Briscoe. That was wrong, and I picked Reddick over Cindric, and that was right. So I got 2 out of the 4 featured matchups. 48th on the weekend, so about my range. 219 points overall.
Read your first 5 guys again.
Reddick, SVG, Bell, Allmendinger, Gibbs.
Okay. The only difference we have is I had Larson instead of Allmendinger.
Okay, which, yeah, he would have probably got it.
Well, Larson was 49 points.
Yeah, and Allmendinger was 28. I think he flipped a lot, so he didn't get many stage points. I think most of his points are all from that 9th place finish.
Yeah. So I had Shane over AJ. I had Bubba over Hamlin. I did have Chastain over Briscoe, so that was one I got wrong. And then I had Reddick over Cindric. So
We were
pretty
close.
good day. Pretty good day, yeah.
Yeah, so you ended up 250 points on the weekend, and spoiler alert, second overall in the league. So let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned this past weekend at the ROVAL for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And in 10th, it's Denny Dumb Beep and Big Burn tied for 241 points in the 10th position. Front Row John was in 9th at 242 points. Chelsea Megan, our friend there, was in 8th, 243 on the weekend. Blaneyac 1012 was in 7th, 244. My cousin Vinny and Hawkeye 07 tied for 5th at 245 points. Bears Motor Club was in 4th at 248. Your team Mez 12 again and Go 12 Go were tied for 2nd at 250. And a decent margin here for the winner, Vans 12 in 1st, wins the weekend at 267 points. So it's 17 points on you guys to pick up the win at the Charlotte Motor Speedway ROVAL. Now let's take a look at the playoff standings. So these are points accumulated in the playoffs only. I am 34th overall, 1,267 points. Top 10 are 10th, Go Larson, 9th, Frank Fan 12, 8th, Char 12 Fan. Fike 21 and Blaneyac 1012 are tied in 6th. JD Racing is in 5th. Blaney Kicks Beep is in 4th. Your team, Mez 12, is in 3rd with 1,387 points. And 2nd in the playoff standings, it's Go 12 Go, 1,393. And leading the way in the playoffs so far, Vans 12, 1,396 points. But as I say every week, we are traditionalists here, and we go with the overall full season points for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League Championship. 55th overall for my team. Team Blaney host Adam, 5,568. Let's take a look at the top 10. Jordan Daniels in 10th, 6,066 points, climbing his way back up. 9th, the Daisy Duke, 6,075. In 8th, it's our friend Dr. Race Chaser, 6,139 points. You're still hanging around the top 10. 7th, Mez 12, 6,162. Blaney Kicks Beep is in 6th, 6,169. Pit Stop Pros in 5th, 6,189. Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing, a former champ, 4th, 6,198. In 3rd is Go 12 Go, 6,202. In 2nd is Alyssa C, 6,255. And pulling away a bit is Vans 12, who leads the playoffs and leads the overall standings. That would be fantastic if someone won both. Vans 12, first overall Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League, 6,292 points. And that brings us now to the opening race in the round of 8 in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and they head out west to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Coverage kicks off on Saturday, October 11th, with practice starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time from Las Vegas on True TV, HBO Max, and you can listen to it on PRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Qualifying follows at 5:40 p.m. Eastern time on all those same places. And then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, you can watch the Focused Health 302 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway on the CW network on television, PRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio. Sunday, October 12th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I believe this is a few hours later than it was last year. So you do have some time to watch the first full slate of NFL games this weekend. 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the South Point 400. You can watch that streaming on the NBC Sports app, on cable, on the USA Network. HBO Max is where the in-car cameras are. And then PRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio on the radio for the South Point 400. Ryan Blaney at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, 18 starts, 84 laps led, average start of 14.3, average finish of 13.9, 2 DNFs, 10 top 10, and 6 top 5s. Ryan has a couple tracks like this where it is absolute feast or famine. In the next gen era, he has finishes of 36th, 28th, 13th, 6th, 3rd, 32nd, 35th. 4 races there in the next gen era with incidents on track. 2 of those being DNFs. But during that stretch, he's led laps several times along the way. He's had speed. I talked about we talked about this being a crucial race in the playoffs here, one that can make or break a championship season, one where he's +6 above the cut line right now, and stage points matter more than ever. We've been to this track, Steve, 3 times recently, I believe, where they've crashed in practice. What do we got to do?
I thought you were. I'm hoping you didn't have to bring that up, but you have to bring it up.
Have to bring it up because, well, you know why? What happened to Kansas when they were probably experimenting a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing now. So they'll be in group 1 for practice, or the second group of practice. So whoever's in the first group, the 21 and the 2. Let them experiment with the air pressure and let them get back to us, because there's no reason now to mess with that. No reason to play with it. No reason to think about it.
Please.
Yeah. And they're running the same tires they ran at Kansas. So they already have that wealth of data, because it was a new right side tire at Kansas to begin with. So they have that wealth of data now from that race. We know what we know from that race. So let's not even play with that. Let's just come out and work on Saturday for good practice, and then do what we got to do in qualifying. So, we get ourselves up near the front and stay there all day.
Yeah. I mentioned the feast or famine situation that this team has. We, after these last 2 finishes there, 32nd and 35th, really can't have that. No. He does have races at Talladega and Martinsville that he's won multiple times, different times. Well, Martinsville, he's only won in the fall. Talladega, he's won at different times of the year.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be put in that spot. He's been put in that spot a couple of times where he's had to win that race to get in, or he maybe could have finished top 5 and pointed his way in. But still, that pressure takes years away from my life. I can't imagine what it does for the guys on the pit box, the guys in the pits, and the driver behind the wheel. I don't know. I mean, that's why they're elite athletes and they're paid to do this and everything, but I don't know how they do it. But even just as fans, the anxiety that we even have, the anxiety that we're going to have watching practice, just because of, if Kansas didn't happen, maybe I'd feel a little bit better, but it's just something about that track this time of year. They've not even just this time of year, the last couple of times they've been there, just in general, something has bit them in practice at Las Vegas, and they can't start behind the 8 ball here. What they have going for them is, you talked about the metric. We talked about that a little off air when we were talking about Denny Hamlin and what he said after. We didn't even really talk about it that much, the incident between him and Ross Chastain, and how, he was worried about where he was going to be at the metric. Well, top 8 guys automatically go to the second round of practice. They get to pick their pit stalls first. I mean, it's kind of how that's in Championship 4, but still, they are in that second round of practice, which is already kind of the prime time to go for qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about that too much, but needs to qualify in the top 15. Really, really needs to qualify in the top 10, because, again, I can't keep hammering, unless you win the race, how much stage points matter in each of these 3 races, because the points are so tight, just to the cut line. So this is when it gets real. This is the 3rd time I'm saying it. The details matter. The small things matter. You have to be perfect at this point if you're going to win a championship. And people can say, and again, I'm fine if they go to a full season format or a 10 race format or whatever to decide the champion. Nobody can ever say it's easy to win a championship in this era. It's probably harder than ever to win a championship in this era, but consistency at this point isn't always going to do it for you. So that's where we are. And I want to feel better. Like I feel like I get this energy from you a little bit too. It's just like the weight is weighing down at this point now, right? Because it's getting real.
See, that's the thing. I'm the opposite
I'm worried.
right now. I'm totally the opposite right now. I saw that in the Discord chat yesterday, and that's where it's coming from. A lot of people were like, "Oh God, what's going to happen? I'm the opposite right now. We got 3 weeks to do something, right? And if it's not this week, it's the next week. If it's not that week, it's the week after that. And the thing is, the last 2 years, it's happened on the last week, right? But we've got 3 weeks to do it, and each race is a new opportunity, and it's a new thing. That new chance to accomplish something. And we won one at New Hampshire a couple weeks ago. Well, we'd never won at New Hampshire before. Well, we've won at Talladega and we've won at Martinsville. Now it's time to win one at Vegas. That's all. Let's just go ahead and get the win at Vegas. We haven't done that yet. It's a time to do it. And I just think that this week is a new opportunity. And I can't wait for it. I mean, like, why does it have to start at 5:00? That's way too late. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, and I try to remind myself, and after our show, after he won the championship in 2023, I said, he's won the championship now. He's got that on his career. Everything after that is just gravy. But then he follows that up by finishing one spot from winning a second championship. And here he is right now in the thick of competing to get back to the championship for a third straight year. Mm-hmm. So it just gets I forget that. I'm like, he has the championship badge on his suit. He's won enough races at this point with the championship that he's probably going to be a NASCAR Hall of Famer. The career is set. It is kind of all gravy from here, but you can't help but get wrapped up in it, especially when you're one of two guys here that for the last 5 years have been doing a podcast all revolving around this guy. So
the tension is palpable, and it'll be there all week. But to me, during the race, I get that way, right? During the race, I get real like
you do. That's right. That's true.
But between the race and this time, I talk it out, talk with my wife about things, and settle down and try to relax and enjoy it because, right now is fun. This is fun. You got to this point of the season and you have a chance, right? We looked at the playoff board. We're on the playoff board, right? For another 3 weeks at least. So let's see what we can do these 3 weeks. Let's see what the team puts together. Let's see what Jonathan puts together. Let's see what Ryan does with what Jonathan gives him. And, go from there. And like I said, this week is this week. And then if it's not this week, then we go to Talladega. If it's not Talladega, guess what? We got one more after that. So would you love it to be this week? Definitely. Look what Joey did with it last year, right? It loosens everything up. Look what New Hampshire did for the last round. We just spent the last 2 weeks doing shows and we were just kind of like, oh, well, we won already. So we're okay. Yep. Sure. That's a great feeling. But you know what? Thriving under pressure and performing under pressure, that's what good, solid championship athletes do. And I can't wait for Saturday and Sunday to see how they perform.
And it all kicks off, as you just said, on Saturday, October 11th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We have practice and qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series. Again, you can watch that on True TV. And then Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, the South Point 400 on the NBC Sports App, USA, HBO Max, SiriusXM, NASCAR Radio, PRN on the radio. Okay. Breathe. Do some breathing exercises. Get through this week.
That's it.
Do what Joey's done. Let's just win this race at Las Vegas and then focus all our sights on Phoenix. If they don't do that, let's get the max stage points that they possibly can get in another top 5 finish to keep padding to the things. Or our unofficial sponsor and 10 runner. That might calm people down a little bit too.
It'll get you through the race. It will.
Well, Steve, I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of the Team Blaney podcast. And I want to thank you, everyone, for tuning in during the week and on race day. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit RyanBlaneyFamilyFoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Hey, who let all these people in my room? Good night, Steubenville. Check out the TikTok.